Hello, everybody. This is Emmylou Harris, and I'm planning to be on the Ralph Emery Show real soon. We're going to talk about my music, and I hope you'll be able to join us.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our show. This is Ralph Emery on the air in Nashville, Tennessee, for those dependable Ford trucks and for Bayer aspirin. And with me, it is a pleasure to welcome to the show for the very first time, Emmylou Harris, one of America's hottest country music singers. Emmylou, it's a delight to welcome you to Nashville.
Well, it's nice to be here once again in Nashville.
Have you made the trip to Nashville many times?
It seems like it. Yes, I've been here several times in the last couple of years.
I see you're wearing your Dolly Parton jacket.
Yeah.
With the butterfly.
Right. When I did, one of my trips to Nashville was to do the show that she had with Linda Ronstadt, and it seems to me that I got the jacket either later or perhaps it was at the same time. And it's been one of my prized possessions.
You wear that everywhere?
Well, since on this tour, it's been my jacket for the tour. You always have to have one, for the unpredictable weather that you run into as you're going across the country.
And you were on tour with Willie Nelson.
Right.
I must ask you a question then. I gave Willie Nelson, I have a television show called Pop Goes the Country. Mm-hmm. And when Willie did the show this year, I gave him a Pop Goes the Country jacket. Have you seen it on this tour?
Oh boy, this could really get me in trouble. He hasn't worn it on stage, and that's about the only time I see him.
All right, that's great. That's great advertising for Dolly, isn't it? I think, at least. Why don't we get underway with a little bit of C'est La Vie?
Okay.
It was a teenage wedding, and the old folks wished them well. You could see that Pierre did truly love the mademoiselle. The chapel bell. C'est la vie, say the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell. They furnished off an apartment with a two-room robot sale. The cooler was crammed with TV dinners and ginger ale. When Pierre found work, a little money come and work out well. Show you never can tell. They had a house on full of boys with a little blast. 700 little records, all rock, rhythm, and jazz. When the sun went down, the rapid tempo of the music fell. C'est la vie, say the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell. It was a cherry red 53. Drove it down to Orleans to celebrate the anniversary. It was there that Pierre was wedded to the lovely mademoiselle. C'est la vie, said the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell. It was a teenage wedding, and the old folks wished them well. You could see that Pierre did truly love the mademoiselle. Now the young soon went down and rung the chapel bell. C'est la vie, say the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell. C'est la vie, say the old folks. It goes to show you never can tell. C'est la vie, say the old folks. Goes to show you never can
tell. Anything you want to say about that particular recording?
Well, the way it came about, I just came across a tape of it. I've always liked Chuck Berry. And we just sort of worked it up to have a fast song to do in the shows for all the people that scream boogie when we're out there doing waltzes. And I was real surprised when the band came up with this real interesting kind of, I don't know, swing, Cajun kind of feel. For, you know, it was, they just got together and came up with that musical hook. And then I got the idea to put a fiddle on that, and the rest is history. We just went in and recorded it. And it's a real fun song. I think Chuck Berry, is a great American poet. I think his lyrics personify and state things that other people try to use fancy words for, and he just comes right out with it.
Puts it in a groove.
He certainly does.
Well, you've heard Emmylou Harris open our show with C'est la vie.
Here's Merle Haggard for Ford's new F-250 4x4.
Hey, pickup driving man, are you in love? Ford's got your kind of a real tough truck. It's a strong running, long running, smooth as a song running pickup with a proud Ford brand. Made tough with the pickup driving man.
For '77, Ford's new F-250 is our toughest 4x4 by far. It has an all-new frame, new integral power steering, new easier entrance height, and even more transfer case clearance than before. Plus, with V8 automatic, there's Ford's exclusive choice of either full-time or efficient part-time four-wheel drive with free-running hubs. Ford's new F-250. It's one tough four-wheeler.
Made tough for the pickup driving man.
My guest is Emmylou Harris, and for me this is a personal pleasure. There's so many things I've wanted to ask her for a long time. First of all, Emmylou, I wanted to ask you how you got into the Louvin Brothers music so heavily.
I first heard them, I was working with a young man named Graham Parsons who really got me into country music, even though I had sort of dabbled in it before. He gave me a tape to listen to of just some assorted things. It had Dolly Parton on there, who, of course, I was familiar with. She was already one of my favorite singers. And it had some Wilma Lee and Stoney Cooper on it. And then I heard this song. I think it was Born Again.
Uh-huh.
And I heard this voice, and I went over and I said, "Who is that chick singer?" I said, "That is incredible." And he sort of smiled a wry smile and said, "That's Ira Louvin." See, he tricked me. He knew I was going to flip out over it. He had me pegged from the beginning, and I became a stoned-out Charlie and Ira Louvin freak after that. I started trying to get their records, and gradually I got a collection now through the courtesy of the Hall of Fame. They've sent me everything that they have, on tape.
Uh-huh.
I still haven't had time to sit down and go through all of it, but that's where I got my version of Making Believe from the Louvin Brothers, hearing them sing the harmonies, and I sat down and worked it up. And I just find their music incredibly inspiring, their harmonies and their songs and their treatments of songs.
Now, for purposes of backgrounding, what we're about to play, the Louvin Brothers were perhaps the hottest country music duo in the 1950s, and then Ira Louvin died in the mid-1960s. He sings the high part, and Charlie, his brother, of course, carries on. And Ira Louvin was very talented. He was very good with his hands. He could build fiddles and guitars and that sort of thing. Well, this was one of their old hits, and it's called If I Could Only Win Your Love.
If I could only win your love, I'd make the most of everything. I'd proudly wear your wedding ring. My heart would never stray one dream away. If I could only win your love, I'd give my all to make it live. You'll never know how much I'd give if I could only win your love. Oh, how can I ever say how I crave your love when you're gone away? Oh, how can I ever show how I burn inside when you hold me tight? If I could only win your love. I'd give my all to make it live. You'll never know how much I'd give if I could only win your love. When you hold me tight, if I could only win your love, I'd give my all to make it live. You'll never know how much I'd give if I could only win your love.
Our guest star of the week, Emmylou Harris, singing the Louvin Brothers' old song, If I Could Only Win Your Love. Now, Emmylou, along the way, I will ask you to introduce other people. I heard that you wanted to play disc jockey.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, every once in a while I go crazy in the record stacks of various radio stations.
All right, you have a chance here to bring on the next record. So if you will, please.
All right, well, here is a man who I think is an incredibly fine singer, not just a country singer. And I had the pleasure of doing a show with him in Edmonton, which is in Alberta, Canada. And he's going to sing I've Already Loved You in My Mind, Mr. Conway Twitty.
I thought I've never seen a girl like her in here before, and I could see her watching me as I walked across the floor. I asked her if she'd like to dance when the band starts up again. She said, I never dance with strangers, I don't even know your name. I said, we're not exactly strangers, you and I. My thoughts were running wild and free as I watched you tonight. Just think about it and you'll find we're not exactly strangers. I've already loved you in my mind. The band started playing a slow-moving song. She got up and easily moved into my arms. I kept on saying the things a girl likes to hear. And when the dance was over, she whispered in my ear. She said, we're not exactly strangers, you and I. My thoughts were running wild and free while you held me tight. I thought about it and I find we're not exactly strangers. I've already loved you in my mind.
As Loretta would say, that's old Conway. Conway Twitty, and I've already loved you in my mind.
I switched to Bayer. Are you talking to me?
I used to use an aspirin substitute.
Who are you?
Then do you know what I read?
Well, you know, I don't take this bus often.
Inflammation often accompanies pain, and aspirin substitutes do nothing to relieve inflammation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Also, a major hospital study showed 99 times out of 100, Bayer didn't upset the stomach, so I switched to Bayer.
Come to think of it, my aunt switched to Bayer.
Yeah? What bus does she take?
Bayer aspirin, the kind of relief you cannot get from an aspirin substitute. Use only as directed.
When the sweet baby's on, when the sweet baby's on.
Latin Scruggs performing just one of 30 original bluegrass hits in 30 years of bluegrass. Listen to what you get. The Stanley Brothers. Bill Clifton.
Let me be your solid dog, I want to be your man.
Latin Scruggs.
Let me be your solid dog.
Benny Martin. 30 years of bluegrass can be yours today by mail only. The 2-record set is only $5.99, 8-track tape only $7.99. Order yours now.
To get your copy of 30 Years of Bluegrass, send your check or money order today for $5.99 for the album set or $7.99 for the 8-track tape to Bluegrass, Box 8, Nashville, Tennessee, 37202. That's Bluegrass, Box 8, Nashville, Tennessee, 37202. Emmylou was telling me a story. There is a particular Conway Twitty record song that you like very much.
Oh, yes, it's called I've Already Heard It, and this time I heard her more than she loved me, and it was one of those where I would try to turn it around, you know, to be a woman's song, but it just somehow doesn't have the same punch, and it was too hard to change the rhyme scheme. So I was carrying around this guitar with me at the time of doing the show with Conway up in Canada. We were waiting in the airport, and I was standing up against the waiting room, and I was, you know, singing it to myself, playing it on the guitar. I've long since, you know, gotten past people looking at me like I was crazy when I walk around singing in elevators and stuff. So all of a sudden, I noticed that the band was staring at me, leering, getting, you know, holding back their laughter. And I turned around, and there was Conway standing behind me, and he said, "Well, that's just a fine song you're singing there."
You mean you can't turn that around and make that a girl's song?
I tried. It just doesn't. No more crying on her shoulder. No more crying on his shoulder. He won't even let me hold him.
Oh.
You see, it's sort of, I don't know, it doesn't really work. And besides, he did such a great, you know, I'm content to sing it in the waiting rooms of the airports of our nation.
All right. Here's my little Texas buddy, Billy Joe Spears.
I guess compared to some folks, we overdo a good thing. I don't believe there's such a thing. 'Cause hey, lover, look at you and me. Too much is not enough. It's over too soon. Just a little, just won't do. Too much is not enough of loving you. I'm never feeling better than just before the sunrise. When you open your eyes and say, "Hey lover, guess what's on my mind?" Too much is not enough. It's over too soon. Just a little, just won't do. Too much is not enough of loving you.
Too much is not enough.
It's over too soon. Just a little, just won't do. Too much is not enough of loving you. Too much is not enough of loving you.
Billy Joe singing Too Much Is Not Enough.
Elvis Superstar. Now you can enjoy the best of Elvis on a 2-record set of double dynamite hits. 'Cause you kiss the lips behind like the sweet song of the choir, and you light my morning sky. Burning love. Who's falling in love in a hurry? You better not mess with the U.S. mail, my friend. Treat me like a fool. Treat me mean and cruel. All I got but love me. Both LPs only $6.95. 8-track tapes $7.95. Here's how to get yours.
To get your Elvis Double Dynamite, send your check or money order today for $6.95 for the 2-record set or $7.95 for the 8-track tape to Elvis, Box 8, Nashville, Tennessee 37202. That's Elvis, Box 8, Nashville, Tennessee.
All right, Emmylou, take on another pair here.
Boy, I'll take on this pair. These are two of my favorites, I tell you. George and Tammy singing about what is unfortunately now my home spot, Southern California.
Did you like it out there?
Well, it's a lot of, at least you can see the air you breathe.
See the air you breathe? All right, here are George and Tammy.
You always said someday you'd go to live in Southern California, and me, I'd stay right here in Tennessee. You always talked about the better days in Southern California, but if you'll stay in Tennessee, I promise there'll be better days with me.
It's not that I don't love you, but I hear the call from Southern California. There's something I can't find in Tennessee. Silver screens and limousines, they wait for me in Southern California. Though you've been so good to me, the time has come, you'll have to set me free.
Tomorrow when you leave, you'll take my heart to Southern California. But just remember, I'll be here to keep your heart with me in Tennessee.
It's been 5 years and I guess I've cried a million tears, looking out the window of this little room, right over that flashing neon sign that says bar. It's almost midnight and time to go downstairs and go to work. I wonder how he's doing in Tennessee.
Well, here I sit by the window of this big old lonely mansion, looking out over the Smokies and owning everything I can see. Oh, I guess by now she's found what she was looking for. And as I look at this old faded photograph of the girl that I still love, I wonder if she ever thinks of me.
But the weather's good in Southern California.
George Jones, Miss Tammy Wynette singing about, well, a lot of places, but it all winds up in Southern California. You are listening to the Ralph Emery Show, and Emmylou Harris is my guest. And Emmylou, on the record we are about to play by you, you also have a guest appearance by another very famous singer, don't you?
Oh, yes, and it's not Tina Turner. It's Dolly Parton. And, well, what can I say?
How do you work these things out for Dolly Parton to come by and sing on your records, and then the two of you to go over and sing with Mary Kay Place and things like that?
Oh, I don't know. It's a matter of scheduling. I mean, we're both always out, doing stuff. And
I was thinking more in terms of the legal departments of the record companies having to get together and straighten out on paper.
Well, I think that is changing a lot. I think it might have started, I'm speculating, it might have started out in L.A. when a lot of people were just coming from the same pool of everybody was singing on everybody's records out there, and I think maybe it's starting in Nashville now. I really think it's a good idea, you know. I think it's in a sense, if you have to look at it from a money-making standpoint or a business standpoint, I think, you know, if somebody hears an artist, you know, a guest appearance by one person, they might get turned onto it and go, you know, and vice versa. From a musical standpoint, I love the idea of it because I like to see musicians work with one another, and I know they enjoy sitting around playing.
They still put little notes on the backs of albums. Dolly Parton appears through the courtesy of RCA Records.
Yeah.
Well, all right. What I want you to do is paint me a little picture here of this scenario. You're going to record, and somehow Dolly Parton gets into the session.
Well, I had met Dolly before. After I did Coat of Many Colors, Mary Martin, who originally assigned me for Warner Brothers, had some correspondence with them because she's always been a Dolly Parton fan, and somehow I came to Nashville and met Dolly, and I think I met George Jones in the same day, and it was a really emotional experience for me. I think I ended up getting sick to my stomach. That happens to me when I get nervous. And then gradually, you know, she came out to LA and met Linda Ronstadt, who had always been a fan, and the three of us got together in Brian's studio, which is a mobile recording studio. And we did When I Stopped Dreaming, just sitting around with one guitar. And we also did a Christmas song that we eventually recorded together. And everybody said, well, wow, now this is fun. Now let's try to do this at some point and really do the whole production number. And so we did. I just laid down the tracks for When I Stopped Dreaming from that demo, with the keys and everything and the arrangement we had worked out. And then Dolly came in, and within 5 minutes she'd laid down her part and was off on a plane off to do whatever it was she had to do.
So you cut this twice, is that correct?
Well, I cut. In other words, we said let's sing together, and we might as well roll the tape. I mean, it wasn't. We didn't cut a track. It was just a guitar and three of our voices singing together, just to hear what it sounded like, and also because we've all admired one another so much and enjoy the same types of music and things, and all love that song.
So this is you and Dolly.
And it's and another friend of mine, Faye Sue Starling. Linda got the flu right before the session, was unable to sing, so I got another friend of mine who I think is a really fine singer. She's a speech therapist from Washington, D.C.
So this is Faye Sue.
Faye Sue Starling and Dolly Parton and myself.
All right.
When I stop dreaming, that's when I'll stop loving you. The worst that I've ever been hurt in my life, the first time I ever have wanted to die, was the night when you told me you loved someone new, and you asked me if I could forget. When I stop dreaming, that's when I'll stop loving you. You may teach the flowers to bloom in snow. You may take a pebble and teach it to grow. You may teach all the raindrops to return to the clouds, but you can't teach my heart to forget. When I stop dreaming, that's when I'll stop loving you. very
Our guest star, Emmylou Harris. I love that name, Fay Sue, and she spells it like Sioux City, Iowa, doesn't she?
Yeah, well, it's a French surname, actually. It's Fayssoux.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not going to have to take a test on this. All right, you've heard Emmylou Harris with When I Stop Dreaming. Now, here's my buddy Bobby Borchers.
Well, I met him in Seattle, bellied up to a bottle, telling lies in the Blue Moon Bar. His face was hard to travel, and as the lines unraveled, I saw a man who could laugh about his scars. He said, I got Shanghai in Vegas by a painted lady, hog-tied by a looker in Ohio. I got derailed by a dancer down in Dallas. Lord, they said women gonna be the death of me, but what a way to go. Well, they said a girl named Nancy once tickled his fancy, backed it up with a $50 smile. He laughed when he remembered the pain of sweet surrender, but heartaches never seemed to cramp his style. He said, I got tongue-tied by a teacher in Tallahassee, French fried by a waitress in Idaho. I got waylaid by a widow in Wyoming. Lord, they said women gonna be the death of me, but what a way to go. Said I got Shanghai in Vegas by a painted lady, hog-tied by a looker in Ohio. I got derailed by a dancer down in Dallas. Lord, they said women gonna be the death of me, but what a way to go. Said I got tongue-tied by a teacher in Tallahassee.
Bobby Borchers with What a Way to Go.
I switched to Bayer.
Are you talking to me?
I used to use an aspirin substitute.
Who are you?
Then do you know what I read?
Well, I don't take this bus often.
Inflammation often accompanies pain, and aspirin substitutes do nothing to relieve inflammation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Also, a major hospital study showed 99 times out of 100, Bayer didn't upset the stomach, so I switched to Bayer.
Come to think of it, my aunt switched to Bayer.
Yeah? What bus does she take?
Bayer aspirin, the kind of relief you cannot get from an aspirin substitute. Use only as directed.
Emmylou, I've been wanting to ask you, I had heard that you spent some time in Nashville years ago as a waitress. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, and also in New York and Norfolk, Virginia Beach. I'm a good waitress.
Are you?
Yes.
Why did you come to Nashville looking for a break?
I guess sort of in the back of my mind. I had been working in New York. My daughter had just been born in March of '70, and I think I sort of came to Nashville thinking that, well, I was doing country music a bit in New York. There didn't seem to be too much of a receptive market, and I guess I wanted a change of scenery. I've always been kind of nomadic. And I don't really know what my motives were coming to Nashville. I just thought, well, I need a change of scenery.
Did you get a break here?
Well, a lot of things happened to me. My marriage broke up, and I worked as a model, and I worked as a waitress, and I did a few singing jobs, and after about 9 months, with $10 left, I finally went home to my parents.
I'm going to get back to this.
Okay.
Crystal Gale is going to sing for us, and boy, does she sing.
It's the wrong time and the wrong place. Though your face is charming, it's the wrong face. It's not his face, but
such a charming face that it's alright with me. It's the wrong song, it's the wrong style. Though your smile is lovely, it's the wrong smile. It's not his smile, but such a lovely smile that it's alright with me. You can't know how happy I am that we met. I'm strangely attracted to you. There's someone I'm trying so hard to forget. Don't you want to forget someone too? It's the wrong game with the wrong chips. Though your lips are tempting, they're the wrong lips. They're not his lips, but they're such tempting lips that if some night you're free, dear, it's alright. It's alright with me. It's the wrong game with the wrong chips. Though your lips are tempting, they're the wrong lips. They're not his lips, but they're such tempting lips that if some night you're free, dear, it's alright. It's alright with me.
Crystal Gayle, that's from her latest LP, and you may have heard her sing that in another form as a part of an airline commercial. Crystal Gayle with an old song called It's All Right With Me. Emmylou, I think you should bring on the next act. And this is the newest record to be released by RCA on Willie and recorded about, I guess, about 14 years ago. And you are fronting his show.
Yes, I am, and it's a real pleasure to introduce this next song, You Ought to Hear Me Crying, by Mr. Willie Nelson.
If you think I laugh louder than anyone here, if you think that my volume's too high, if you think I laugh loud, you ain't heard nothing yet. You ought to hear me cry. If you think I talk louder than maybe I should, well, I guess I'm just that kind of guy. But if I talk loud and laugh loud, you ain't heard it all. You ought to hear me cry. I go home to a home where love's almost gone, not enough to fill one needle's eye. Then I sit down in a corner and I turn on the tears, and you ought to hear me cry. I go home to a home where love's almost gone, not enough to fill one needle's eye. Then I sit down in a corner and I turn on the tears, and you ought to hear me cry.
on a nationwide tour with Willie currently, aren't you?
Well, let's say an East Coast tour.
Okay. But you go out and you work.
Yeah.
For how long?
Yeah.
For how long?
Well, it depends. This particular tour started the 1st of August, and I've been out for 3 weeks now.
No, I meant in the show itself. You go out and you perform for...
About an hour.
And then...
Depending. Sometimes I go an hour and 15, depending on if there are any curfews. I mean, Willie, and I worked with Waylon too, you know, they're real cool about saying, you know, play as long as you want, but sometimes there's a curfew in the hall, and I try to keep my shows about an hour, and it's a nice long time, you know, to go out and play.
Just get off when you feel like it.
Yep.
You've heard Willie with You Ought to Hear Me Cry.
Here's Merle Haggard for tough Ford pickups.
Hey, pickup driving man, are you in love? Ford's got your kind of a real tough truck. It's a strong running, long running, smooth as a song running pickup with a proud Ford brand. Made tough with the pickup driving man.
That's right, Merle. Ford pickups are tough. Because Ford's got over 350 square feet of special rust protection, including exclusive inner fender liners that can't rust. Plus high-efficiency big cube V8s that really crank out some power. And rugged twin I-beam front suspension, a Ford exclusive. Ford, it's one tough truck.
Made tough for the pickup driving man.
Emmylou, it is your turn to sing again. This is one of my favorite records by you.
Well, thank you very much. This is a favorite of mine. I mean, this song, it's one of my favorites.
Did you say this was something you got out of a George Jones LP?
Yeah, an album a few years ago. I've got so many of his albums, I can't even remember which one it was. Actually, it was sung to me by a mutual... There are George Jones fans everywhere, and one of my musician's friends had sung the song to me, and I said, I never heard that one. And he said, well, it's, you know, George Jones' tune. So I finally found the album, and I started singing it like backstage. It was another one of my songs that I would sing in waiting for airlines and everything. And we never worked it up with the band, but it came time to record. And I said, well, let's try this one. And we put down the track, and it turned out to be probably my favorite track on the Elite Hotel album.
No, I can be better, I can be good, I can be any way that I feel one of these days. Might be a woman that's dressed in black, be a hobo by the railroad track. I'll be gone like the wayward wind one of these days. One of these days it will soon be all over, cut and dry, and I won't have this urge to go all bottled up inside. One of these days I'll look back and I'll say I left in time, 'cause somewhere in me I know there's peace of I might someday walk across this land, carrying the Lord's book in my hand, going across the country singing loud as I can one of these days. But I won't have trouble on my back, couldn't like the devil with a chiving axe, got to shake him off of my back one of these days. One of these days it will soon be
That's our guest, Emmylou Harris, and One of These Days. Little theme song there. Emmylou, this is the end of day number 1. But we'll return tomorrow to visit with you again. I thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you.
Emmylou Harris, our guest. Our sponsors have been Bayer Aspirin, and hopefully will be tomorrow. And Ford Trucks. And this is Ralph Emery thanking you for listening.